Am I the a-hole for telling my dad I owe him nothing and throwing his words back at him during an argument? The gist is this. I lost my mom to a long-term health issue when I was 10. The cost of treatment drained my parents' finances, and it was just dad and me after mom died. No extended family. Dad started dating when I was 12 and he met Jane. And after a few months, he told me her son had a form of brain cancer and was very sick, and that they were getting married and he would be helping to take care of her son. We went from 2 in a tiny 2-bedroom house to 4 in a tiny 2-bedroom house, and me sharing with a terminally ill toddler I didn't know. We had to make so many changes. No more takeout, which was a once-a-month treat before that. I had to stop my only extracurricular activity. No friends over because noise bothered him. No space that was just mine. Had no extra money for celebrating birthdays and Christmas. When I was 15, Dad and I got into a huge argument because I was never home and was always saying no to helping Jane take care of her son. When I told him how much I hated the situation, he looked me in the eye and told me to grow up. He also told me that I was old enough to understand that life wasn't always easy or fun, and that a rougher life can build character. He told me we grew our family, which was a good thing, and one of the consequences of that sometimes is having less, but that it was worth it for the extra love. I told him it was BS. He told me I was not his whole life, and he was not going to stop doing what he wanted to do because of me. Then he told me to never ever say anything negative around his stepson because he was a kid and didn't need to know I resented him for being sick. After that talk, I was even more distant and left before I turned 18 right after graduation, couch surfed until I went to college, and I didn't stay in touch. When I was 19, I heard that Dad's stepson had died. In college, I met my wife and we got married this past June. Then in November, my dad showed up and told me he wanted to talk, but I shut the door in his face. He kept showing up where I was to talk, and after getting annoyed with him, I agreed to meet him for coffee. He told me how he'd ended up divorced from Jane, and how his stepson had died, and he looked disappointed when he learned I knew. Then he told me how he'd been struggling a lot and how he was hoping I could help him out. I laughed in his face and told him he had some nerve. He mentioned how he'd spent a lot of money on finding me and he wanted us to repair things, but he also needed my help. I told him no way. He became angry and told me he was my dad and was always there for me and I owed him. I told him I owed him nothing, and I threw most of his words back in his face, including that he needed to grow up and that he was not my whole life and would not stop me from doing what I want. It became a bit of a scene, then told me at my age I should have grown more compassion. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your dad sacrificed you so that he could bang. And as things turned out, the family he created wasn't all that real after all. He was just a patsy to help take care of a sick kid. You owe him nothing. Wife probably left as soon as her son was buried. That prospect sounds so real that I stopped. I'm a mom, and if one of my kids died, I wouldn't want to stay married or be able to even look at someone who just threw their child away, when I did everything I could to keep mine alive. Once the haze of it was over, Opie's dad probably disgusted her. It doesn't sound like she was too worried about him throwing his kid away when hers was sick. Not the a-hole. Your dad quite literally showed up after he had nothing left but you. That's a huge red flag, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. My dad is just like this. He left when my mom died at 17 and slept around with other women while she was in the hospital. Then he wasted all her life insurance money in a Rolex, and he's been trying to contact me for years. Last year, I finally agreed to meet with him against my better judgment. And the second thing he said to me after saying I've gotten pretty was that he needed help paying off his car. I immediately stood up and left. Huge not the a-hole OP. You owe him nothing. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my daughter her education fund money? I, 54 male, have 2 children, 23 female and 21 male, with my wife, 52 female. When the kids were young, my parents set up education funds for both of them, which was very generous of them. My wife and I always expected our kids to attend college and then graduate school, as we have done. I have a PhD, my wife has a master's. Because of this, we decided not to use the funds for our kids' undergrad degrees and did not tell them about the money. My daughter has always been more into the liberal arts, while my son is more of a STEM guy. My wife and I worried about her ability to find a job, but she insisted on studying music and film in college. She was accepted to some top schools and chose to attend a rather expensive one, but she had scholarships to cover almost all of her tuition. Everything else, plus living expenses, was her responsibility. She lived in a very small apartment shared with friends in a not-so-nice area far from campus, but she was fine and learned how to budget effectively. After graduating, she luckily found a job that doesn't pay extremely well, but she enjoys, and scrapped the idea of grad school. My son decided to do engineering, and he also expressed that he had no interest in grad school. My wife and I were disappointed but accepted it since at this point, he is already all set up with a very good job when he completes school. Since he did not receive as many scholarships as his sister, we decided to use his education fund to cover his tuition and living expenses. He was able to get a large and nice apartment of his own close to the school, which is important since his classes are so demanding and he needs a comfortable space to work. My daughter was confused and asked how he could afford this, and he told her about the education fund. She called us and asked why she didn't have one, and we told her she did. We just didn't use it because we hoped she would attend grad school. She seemed hurt by this and asked if there was any way she could have the money now. We explained that there would be a fee to simply withdraw the money for non-education uses, and if we chose to do that, it would belong to her grandparents, so they could put it towards their own use. She's been quiet and short when answering our texts and hasn't answered our calls at all since then. I know that it seems unfair to her, but it's not really her money in the first place, and she's no longer in college. Plus, her brother only received it for educational purposes and it wouldn't be right for her to just have it to spend now. Am I the a-hole? So let me get this right. Your daughter attended college and had a scholarship. Your son attended college with no scholarship. You chose not to let your daughter use her college fund for everything that her scholarship didn't cover, and you let your son use his for everything. The college fund you said wasn't even her money, but isn't yours either. What exactly do you plan to do with her college money? You're the a-hole for this. Not to mention a college fund her grandparents set for her. He's basically stealing her money. Major you're the a-hole. You're the a-hole, and I'm surprised between your PhD and master's degrees you couldn't figure that out. Two highly educated fools. Education does not equate intelligence or self-awareness. You're the a-hole. Oh dear, just goes to show you that having PhD and a master's does not neither make you a good parent nor smart in any way. Also, graduate degrees are cheaper, especially PhDs. Most doctoral programs pay you to be there. This was all around really dumb, and you're the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for backing up my brother in saying our step-sibling's mom and siblings shouldn't be invited to his birthday party while our step-siblings were there? My brother will be 14 in March, and my mom wanted to throw him a bigger than normal birthday party to make up for not having any celebration with others outside the household since 2019. My brother was really excited and asked if our grandparents, our aunts, and cousins could be there. And Mom said it was just for her side, and that our grandparents would probably do their own thing with him. He asked if our stepdad's ex-wife and her kids, 2 from before her time with our stepdad and 3 came after, would be there. And she said of course, because they're family, and they're our step-siblings' bio-siblings. He said that wasn't fair, because they aren't his family, and why are we trying to include them? My mom said they are family, and we all want to get along and make sure everyone is treated just like family should. My stepdad said it would mean a lot to his kids, our step-siblings, who are 10 and 8. But my brother said if his family couldn't be there, then the step-siblings didn't get to have their family at his birthday party. I said I agreed, and I told them I wouldn't want them at mine either because they are not family to us. Our step-siblings were there and got upset, and asked why their mom and siblings couldn't be there. Our mom and stepdad assured them they would be there, but my brother said it wasn't fair, and said he didn't want them there and didn't care about them. Mom was furious and yelled at him, and I told her she couldn't expect him to want them there or to have strangers there just for our step-siblings, when she literally just said we couldn't have our family there because it was just for her side. Mom was angry at me, told me I'm the oldest and should be responsible and not encourage him. She said blended family should be about inclusion and welcoming everyone in. I told her that she was going against what she said by excluding our dad's family. She told me that's different because they are no longer anything to do with her. I told her that didn't mean they weren't something to do with us, and that Dad's death did not erase the loving grandparents and aunts we had on his side. She told me I was being unfair and should not have agreed in front of my step-siblings, because now they're upset and don't understand why we don't like their family. Am I the a-hole? The people my brother does not want at his party are not our step-siblings, but their mom and their siblings from their mom. They're not related to us. is their dad who is married to our mom, and his ex-wife and her other children from different men have nothing to do with my brother. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You are absolutely right. And it's good you stood up for your brother. The wrong thing here is that your mother is limiting this to her side of the family, completely excluding your deceased father's side. She isn't even considering inviting your grandparents, aunts, cousins, etc., despite the fact that you and your brother love them and would like them to be there. Let's keep in mind that a party is supposed to be for your brother. The other weird thing is for your mother to be so fond of her husband's ex's children, who aren't even his kids. I hope I didn't get this wrong. Your stepdad has some kids from a previous marriage, your step-siblings. Your stepdad's ex got remarried and had additional children. Those children have an active father in their life, right? Why is your mother so desperate to include some other family's children? Why does she want to include the ex-wife of her husband to her child's 14th birthday? That's far-fetched. She needs to decide if the party is small, just a few close family members, or if this is a huge party with just about everyone, in which case your father's side should also be invited. You got it mostly right. Stepdad's ex had 2 kids when they met, 2 with him and then 3 after they divorced. Those 5 kids are not my stepdad's, are apparently invited along with their mom/stepdad's ex. I know my stepdad and mom get along with his ex okay, but she and her kids are really not people my brother and I consider part of the family at all. Not the a-hole. Your mom is applying rules based on what she is related to, not based on who the honoree, your brother, is related to. It sounds like there was a blended family due to death, not abuse or neglect or anything, so it seems weird for her to exclude half your family. And she is not even related to them. It is her stepchildren's mother's family. She is honestly just bending backwards to please her husband, which is just ridiculous. Her child's birthday party should have their family. It's more likely she just hates her old in-laws and doesn't want to be around them. She tried disguising this with the "my family only" excuse, but shot herself in the foot by then inviting people who are clearly not her family. She is being an idiot for making dumb excuses. I have no idea whether her dislike for the old in-laws is justified or not, but it would have been better to be upfront. I don't think it's fair to blame her new husband for this situation. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not moving my wedding date? My fiancé and I recently got engaged, and when looking at dates, we realized our anniversary falls on a Saturday this year. Perfect, right? We immediately start planning because it's approximately 9 months out and we have to move quick to pull a wedding together. We told everyone the potential date this weekend and all seemed well. Monday, I get a phone call from my father. He insists that I move the date because my mother has a yoga retreat that weekend. I tell him that this date means a lot to me and I would prefer to keep it if there was any way to move the retreat. There is, but it's expensive. I offer to pay for this change out of my wedding budget, essentially having the amount that I can spend on the most important event of my life. Yesterday, I was told that they would not be taking my offer to pay to move the retreat, and that we're expected to move the wedding instead. I haven't put money on my venue yet, so they think I should be fine with giving up the chance to marry on a date that means a lot to me. It became a massive fight, and now my parents and I aren't speaking. My father accused me of caring about a date more than I care about my mother. I told him that it felt as though they were choosing yoga over their own daughter. Your parents are prioritizing a yoga retreat over your wedding? I told him that it felt as though they were choosing yoga over their own daughter. They 100% are. Have the wedding without them. Not the a-hole. And I would be petty and put on the photos why they weren't at the wedding. Opie's parents suck. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. First of all, congratulations on your upcoming wedding. However, I'm sorry to say your parents have made it perfectly clear where on their priority list you, their child, is. It is apparently below yoga. And you are right, she is choosing yoga over you. A yoga retreat is something that can be done anytime. Your wedding will only happen once. Don't let your father say you don't care about your mother. He is gaslighting you. Also, has Opie actually talked to the mother about this? Seems like Dad is passing messages back and forth. Is Daddy-O playing the old triangulation game? Not the a-hole. Your parents are being absurdly self-centered. The polite thing for them to do would be to reschedule or cancel the retreat without ever telling you, so as not to impinge on your wedding planning excitement. Just to make sure, because this is honestly so over the top it's baffling to me, is your mom attending the retreat or is she leading it? Attending. They have this retreat yearly, and there is also makeup dates for the classes she would miss. Wow, they want you to move your wedding for something she goes to on a regular basis? You are even more not the a-hole than I thought before. There is no reason that she can't skip something that happens yearly for a unique event. Like someone else said, they shouldn't have even mentioned it to you.